Welcome to r/Am I the Jerk, where Karen really wants a new iPhone. Am I the jerk for refusing to buy my daughter another phone and ruining her life? I have a 14-year-old daughter, and she's pretty clumsy. We bought her an iPhone 13 Pro a couple of years ago. She broke it just a few months after getting it. Thankfully, we had Apple Care and managed to get it repaired. Now she's broken her phone again, this time after it accidentally fell out of her hand at a friend's house while she was playing a video game. The phone is too badly damaged to repair. Now she's begging for an iPhone 15. Unfortunately, the phone is no longer covered by insurance, meaning we would have to buy a new one. We recently spent a lot of money on a gaming PC and an iPad for her 14th birthday, and I really don't want to spend more money on electronics, especially not smartphones. A new iPhone would cost around $1,000. She's already broken one phone, and I feel like I'll be rewarding this behavior if I buy her another, as she still seems to be pretty clumsy. I made a deal with her. If she can keep her iPad safe for a year without breaking it, I'll buy her a new phone next year. Now she's complaining that I'm being too harsh, saying I'm ruining her life, and that she needs an iPhone. She still has a smartphone, but she complains about it being slow and having a bad camera. She's currently using her sister's old Redmi Note 11, which works fine, but it's not as cool as her iPhone was. I'm wondering if I should just give in and buy her another iPhone, or if I'm okay to stick with this punishment. Am I the jerk? Edit. I received a comment asking why I didn't get my older daughter an iPhone when we bought them phones around the same time. The reason is that she didn't want an iPhone. For her birthday, we got her an Apple Pencil for her iPad and a nice telescope along with her phone. Not the jerk. If she absolutely needs a phone for something, get her a refurbished one, an iPhone SE or a base-level iPhone 15. Or if you have an older phone, get yourself a new one and give her your old one. A 14-year-old does not need a new iPhone Pro. Am I the jerk for refusing to continue hosting parties for my family? I, 26 female, love hosting parties for my family. I'm usually the one in charge of Christmas, and most birthdays are celebrated at my home. I enjoy doing elaborate parties, planning the menu, making everything from scratch, decorating, and even organizing Secret Santa for Christmas. Depending on the event, I sometimes include games or karaoke as well. Before I started hosting, my family's events were pretty basic. They'd have one meal, like a simple barbecue, order pizza, or make a traditional dish, and usually buy a cake for dessert. There was never any decoration, and the parties were mostly about showing up, eating, and leaving. Nothing wrong with that, but I love Christmas. So about 4 years ago, I decided to host for the first time and went all out. Everyone loved it and praised me for everything. Over the years, I've definitely improved my cooking and party planning skills, and I'm very proud of what I do. They enjoyed it so much that some family members were starting to ask me to host their birthday parties as a gift, and I happily did. It's worth mentioning that my immediate family is small, just 9 or 10 people, so it's manageable and not too expensive for me. Now here's where the issue starts. At the last few parties I hosted, Christmas, my mom's, uncle's, and aunt's birthdays, and most recently my husband's birthday, they developed what I consider a nasty attitude. For example, I would send proper invitations clearly stating that the party would start at 3:30 p.m. However, they would show up at noon and comment on how I wasn't ready. At my husband's party, they saw the decorations were only halfway done and started asking why the food wasn't ready. I had told them it would be an early dinner, but they showed up without having eaten lunch and demanded that I stop decorating and start cooking because I was being rude by letting them go hungry. Long story short, they started eating random snacks, and everyone pressured me into cutting several things from the party and rushing the schedule to accommodate them. This led to me not having the party I had envisioned and having to rush the cooking, only for some of them to leave immediately after the meal. Only 6 of us stayed behind. They've done the same thing at every other event, showing up early, shaming me for not being ready, eating, and then leaving. This leads to yesterday when I was talking to my mom. She asked what I was planning for Christmas this year, and I told her that I wasn't planning anything. I had already told them that I don't like their attitude, and I was done. This led to a fight, with her saying I can't take a joke and that I should learn to accept help and accommodate our family. The argument didn't lead anywhere, but it left me wondering, am I really the jerk here? My husband is on my side, but I'd like some unbiased opinions. Edit. Some of you have asked what my mom meant by not accepting help. Here's a comment I left explaining more. They've offered help before, and I'd accept it, but they never do what I ask. For example, last Christmas, I was making an apple crumble. They offered help, so I asked them to peel the apples and specifically told them not to cut them, as I like them sliced in a very specific way. I also told them to only peel the green apples since the red ones were for a charcuterie table I was assembling. They peeled all of the apples and cut them into cubes. When I got annoyed, they called me dramatic and insisted that their way was better. I stopped letting them help because they always thought they knew better. Instead, I asked them to sit and enjoy a drink, and I prepared snacks in case I got delayed. Now they show up even earlier than expected, leaving me no time to have drinks or snacks ready. Not the jerk. As someone who loves hosting parties, it's expensive, time-consuming, and a lot of labor. I went from hosting every other weekend to every handful of months because my place was absolutely trashed the next day. I let people sleep over so they didn't have to drive home. I frequently get asked why I'm not hosting as much anymore, and I just tell them I don't have the capacity to do so right now. Unfortunately, your family got so used to you doing them this favor that it's no longer seen as a favor, it's an expectation. Stand your ground and stop hosting for them unless it's something that you really want to do on occasion. 6 months postpartum, my fiance tells me that he loves me less. How do I navigate this emotionally as a single parent? I, 27 female, am 6 months postpartum with my beautiful son, my first and only. I've been with my fiance, who's 26, for almost 6 years, and I'm shattered. When I was pregnant, I started to notice my fiance withdrawing from me emotionally and physically. For my birthday, 1 week before our son was born, he got me a Starbucks gift card, $25. That was the gift. For Mother's Day, he handed me a dead bouquet of flowers he had left in the garage overnight without water, and a card that should have been addressed to his own mother, not the mother of his kid. We haven't even hooked up since my pregnancy. I've communicated with him many times that I'd like us to work on that. Of course, parents of newborns sometimes go through a roommate phase. I would tell him that I was ready to get back to normal, but to no avail. He continues to lay in bed watching TikToks while I get our son to sleep, and that's that. Last night, I finally pushed for more direct communication about why he's no longer interested in me. After he skirted around with some excuses, he finally told me, "I think you love me more than I love you." He explained that there are levels to love and that maybe we are just on different levels. I asked, "Has it always been that way?" To which he replied, "I guess I just love you less now." To say I'm shattered is an understatement. If we're being honest, I saw it coming. I could feel it. I've spent my pregnancy and the last 6 months being the sole provider, especially financially, for our kid. I juggle our baby while working from home. I do it all while my fiance is out of town for work most of the time. He says infidelity isn't a part of this, but who knows? Our relationship was never like this before our son. Even though it's not necessarily my fault, I feel like I've already failed as a mother and wonder what my son will think as he gets older. My fiance stated he's hopeful that we can work through this, but I said, "I'm sorry, I can't just make you love me more. What's been said can't be unsaid." 6 months postpartum, and I'm about to be a single mom at 27. Why do you think you failed your son? You're an amazing mom who's engaged to a deadbeat father and a poor partner. OP, I think the heaviness comes from realizing I picked the wrong partner. I never would have been engaged or had a kid if I had known how he had changed with becoming a parent. Was the pregnancy planned? OP, it was unexpected, but he was all for it when we found out. The only way you would have failed as a mother in this case is if you didn't try to address the problem with your child's father. You aren't responsible for what other people do or say. You're only responsible for what you do or say. Here are some questions you could ask him. How does he plan to work this out? For example, spending more alone time together with someone babysitting, going on dates, being more involved in listening to you talk about life beyond mother talk, and talking to a therapist could help. If he wanted to work things out, why did he make no effort and remain passive until you brought it up? You can't say, "I want to be a professional sports player," and expect good results without practicing. OP, I do make an effort to plan a date night here and there. Thankfully, my mom gladly watches our son so we can go out. However, it's not really quality time. He's always on his phone, taking calls for work, and his dad, whom he works with. I think he was fine with complacency. He lives with me rent-free, and I'm financially supporting our son mostly by myself. He owns his own business, but puts all the money back into it. He always complains about being broke, etc. He's basically getting a free ride, so I imagine he wouldn't want to bring it up. Why are you letting him live rent-free? He needs to help you and your son financially. OP, we live with my mom, who doesn't charge us rent. We live in a high cost of living area and weren't living together when I initially became pregnant. He works for his dad, lives rent-free with you covering all the bills, and yet he's out of town for work and always broke? This does not add up. Is his dad not paying him? OP. So he owns the company and his dad works with him. They blow money on equipment for the business, hotels for travel, etc. They spend money before it even hits their account, honestly. Update. I decided to rip the band-aid off and end things. The engagement is over. The relationship is over. All of it. After dinner, while our son was napping, I asked my fiancé when he planned on moving out. Long story short, I had him pack a bag and stay elsewhere tonight. He will start packing his belongings tomorrow. I realized that I can't do this. I can't forgive being told he loves me less. That's not the example or standard I want to set for my kid as he grows up. Love isn't something you need to beg for, work for, or pretend. To make it worse, I asked my fiancé if he felt this way when he got engaged last August, to which he said, "Yes, I've just been lying to myself." This man had a baby with me and knew, possibly beforehand, that his heart wasn't in it, but didn't have the courage to tell me. So here we are, 6 years down the drain. I'm not sure if the reality of having a kid hit him, or if infidelity is involved on his part, or if he lost attraction to me during pregnancy. It could be all of the above, but I'll never know, and that's okay. I'm the primary provider for our son, and that won't change. Our son, who's 6 months old, will remain living with me full-time, and my fiancé is welcome to visit him. We will work out an agreement to ensure he fulfills his financial obligation to our kid, and I'm not afraid to pursue legal action if necessary. I'm 6 months postpartum. This is my first kid. It's been hard, but now I'm officially doing it solo, with the help of my mom. I'm determined to make the best of it. Wish me luck. I'm a guy, and I don't want kids, but I honestly am baffled and frankly disturbed by the number of posts I see about a guy basically vanishing or leaving their partner when they have a kid. That said, I do know there will be negative confirmation bias online with posts. Like, I don't want kids, but if someone I was with had a kid, I absolutely would be as involved as they would allow me. I just can't understand how you could have a mentality that allows you to leave someone you supposedly loved and cared for and your kid. It's incredibly upsetting. My girlfriend and I went to a church barbecue to flex on my ex. I'm 42 male. My ex-wife, who's 44, and I were married for almost 20 years. During that time, she had 4 affairs, including with a very close friend of mine from our church. I tried to make it work, but after her last affair, I couldn't do it anymore. I filed for divorce just over 2 years ago, and we're still going through the process. She's been high conflict the whole time and has painted herself as the victim. While I attend a new church, I still have some friends at the old one, where I had been a member for over 30 years. My petty revenge. I've been dating my girlfriend since January, and she's well aware of my situation. We've been having fun, and while I have older kids, she has younger kids. For Labor Day, we both had the day off and wanted to do something enjoyable with the kids. I mentioned that my old church hosts a picnic every year at a park, complete with games, activities for the kids, and a big potluck barbecue. I told her my ex would likely be there, but it was a large event, so we could keep to ourselves. Plus, I wanted to introduce her to some of my old church friends. My girlfriend made sure she looked extra cute. We wore matching socks, and I sported a shirt that said, "Built for Conflict" on the back. When we arrived at the barbecue, my girlfriend had made a dessert to share, and I took over grilling duties. When my ex saw us, she looked shocked and upset. She eventually came over, tapped my girlfriend on the shoulder, and introduced herself, saying her name. My girlfriend politely responded, "Nice to meet you," and offered her hand for a handshake. My ex then said, "It's awkward for you to be here, and I hope that's how you feel." My girlfriend simply replied, "Okay," and my ex walked off. Later, my ex approached me and said, "This isn't your church anymore. I think you should leave." I calmly replied, "Not gonna happen," and walked away. She returned to her group of friends, my old friends, looking distraught. She eventually went to the pastor and asked him to request that I leave. The pastor, who happens to be my best friend and was the best man at our wedding, came over and talked to me just so he could tell her he had. I told him she needed to grow up and that I wasn't leaving. He went back to her and she was unhinged, trying to argue that we had to leave and attempting to make it a spiritual issue. After realizing she wasn't getting anywhere, she gave up and went to the friend she had an affair with and his wife for comfort. They're still friends, which I don't get. My girlfriend and I just watched and laughed. Throughout this whole divorce process, my ex has been awful, trying to control the narrative. Whatever power she thought she had was completely destroyed that day. Everyone watched as she acted unreasonably while we simply smiled and waved. In the end, the kids had fun, we caught up with old friends, and my ex-wife was put in her place. It was a good day. My ex contacted me after years, and now my boyfriend is upset that I kept in touch. Am I the jerk? For some context, I was in a relationship with my ex for a year, but we broke up 7 years ago. I'm 27, my current boyfriend is 32, and my ex is also 27. Last week, out of the blue, my ex DM'd me just to check in, see how I was doing and how life was treating me. Naturally, I told my boyfriend right away, and he said it was okay that my ex had reached out. From there, my ex and I continued messaging throughout the week. Eventually, we even planned to meet up on Saturday. However, I forgot to mention this to my boyfriend right away. When I realized, I told him that I might see my ex and asked how he felt about it. He said it was fine and that I could go. So I met up with my ex on Saturday. Honestly, we had a really pleasant, positive time. We caught up on our lives, talked about our families, friends, and everything, but nothing more. I want to emphasize that there was absolutely nothing romantic or inappropriate on either side. It was very friendly, and I made sure to be respectful of my boyfriend throughout. We even agreed to stay in touch if needed, but strictly in a respectful, platonic way. When I got home, my boyfriend asked me how it went, and I told him everything, but he reacted very negatively. He asked to see my phone, went through my entire conversation with my ex, and when he didn't find anything compromising, he seemed even more frustrated. We ended up having a huge argument, and now he's saying he doesn't trust me anymore, and that I'm hiding things, that I'm being dishonest, and so on. I'm really confused. I feel like I did everything by the book, being honest and respectful, but my boyfriend's reaction has me questioning myself. Was I wrong to meet up with my ex? Should I have handled this differently? To clarify, my boyfriend is on good terms with all of his exes, and he talks to them from time to time, which doesn't bother me at all. For those wondering how I'd react if the roles were reversed, I want to say that I have no issues with self-confidence or trust in our relationship, so I trust him 100%. My ex and I haven't spoken since. As for my boyfriend and me, yes, we're still together. We had a thorough discussion. We talked about both his perspective and mine, and it turns out what bothered him the most was that I didn't share more details about the messages exchanged during the week. That being said, he had no problem with me going to see my ex. I even showed him the post in your comments, and he found the reactions intense. He also believes it's important to remember that communication is key in a relationship and that nobody is perfect. You have to work together to make it work. But don't worry, everything is great between us. We're happy and still very much in love, so it's a story with a happy ending. He said you could go and he was fine with it? You could always go. He doesn't get to say anything about what you do and where you go. Also, maybe I'm too old, or maybe I just have a working relationship, but this whole thing about how partners are never allowed to communicate with ex-partners or people of the opposite gender, which is its own ridiculous thinking, is just insane to me. I am always a person who has cut exes fully out of my life, but that's because I don't want to talk to those people anymore. My long-term partner and I have been together for 8 years now, and he has an ex I know he communicates with, and I don't give a hoot what they talk about because I trust him. He visits her without me, he talks to her whenever he feels like it. I don't care, and it's not my business. If they wanted to be together, they would be. He's with me, and I trust him. It's really that simple. It's messed up to think that a healthy relationship should function any differently. Delusional people in relationships are the funniest. You are all projecting your insecurities. We trust each other. Next update. Help. Me and my ex cheated, and my current partner won't talk to me. Idiots. You can't just be friends with people you have had a romantic relationship with, ever. You have crossed lines that divide lovers and friends, and you can't then erase that. Yeah, it's not right to meet up with or talk to your exes. You're just inviting trouble into your relationship. This won't be the end of it. Am I the jerk for refusing to give my niece what she wants for her birthday? Yesterday, we had a big family gathering, which meant my older sister, who's 29, and her daughter, who's 6, came over. For half of the day, everything was going well. After lunch, my sister got tired, so I, 27 female, volunteered to look after my niece while my sister took a nap. I have a collection of stuffed animals and dolls, which I let my niece play with while her mother napped. When my sister woke up, she joined us, and we spent some more time together before she announced it was time for them to leave. That's when my niece pointed at the doll I was holding and said she liked him and wanted me to give him to her. I told her that she could choose any other doll or stuffed animal from my collection, just not this one. My niece got really upset and started crying, saying that her birthday is coming up. It's next week, and she wanted that doll as her birthday present. Again, I told her I couldn't give him to her, explaining that he's very important to me. I didn't explain to my niece in detail why he's so important because she's still too young to understand, but I'll explain it here to give a clear picture. I've had this doll for a long time, back when I was going through the darkest period of my life and nothing seemed to be going right. I was advised to find an outlet for my emotions, either through writing or drawing. One of the things I drew was the design for this doll. I spent a lot of time on it, shading, coloring, and perfecting it. Eventually, I decided to turn the drawing into a physical object. After searching for someone I trusted to bring this design to life, I found a person who could help me. For months, we worked together, selecting materials, fabrics, and threads for the doll's body, hair, and eyes. It was an expensive and time-consuming process, but it helped me feel better mentally. The day I finally held the completed doll in my hands, I was overjoyed. Since then, he has become my emotional support doll. It may seem strange, but whenever I look at him, I feel like I can overcome anything. So yes, he's very important to me. My sister told me that maybe it was time for me to just let go of him. Again, I offered my niece any other doll or stuffed animal, just not this one. My niece cried even harder and started screaming. My sister told me I was being an overgrown child, that I needed to act my age, and that I should stop clinging to a toy. She left with my still crying niece, telling me that I needed to prioritize my family over a doll. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Your niece needs to be taught that she can't have everything she wants or she's going to grow into an absolute monster. Sounds like your sister already has her on that path. She needs to be taught that other people's needs and wants have to be considered too. She wants the doll because she likes it, but she doesn't have any kind of deep connection to the doll. You need it because it's a comfort item you rely on. Needs trump wants. My Karen daughter is demanding that I pay for her mother's college tuition. We divorced 20 years ago. I, male 58, and my daughter, who's 27, are in a huge argument over money. A little background first. My ex-wife and I divorced before our daughter was even 1 year old. Custody fights were brutal until she was 9. Her mom lived in an apartment on the rough side of town, and when she was with me, she had an upper middle class life. She had ponies and private coaches for sports that she liked. Her mom liked to make me out as the bad guy to her. Yes, I probably tried to make sure that she knew I was not what her mother told her. When it came time for college, she had a full scholarship to major institutions, including one where I went as an undergrad and another where I went postgrad. Her mother told her that she should never pick a school that I went to. In the end, she picked a college where she only got a 20% scholarship. I told her that that was her choice and she would need to work to cover the cost. I also gave her $500 a month allowance. After graduation and through grad school, I continued doing that. After she moved on and was working, the only time I saw her was when she needed money for something. After never returning calls or texts that I sent, she shows up at my house. During her stay, I asked when she thought her student loan payments would be due and how much they would be. She then said that they would be around $200. I, in hindsight, was foolish in offering to pay them for her. She then said that her mother was also just finishing college and asked if I would pay her loans as well. I explained that we had been divorced for over 20 years now, and what her mother does is not my responsibility. My daughter blew up and said that I was being unfair because I had done much better than her mom and I needed to help her. She then said she never wanted to see me again. Am I the jerk for saying, fine, then don't show up looking for money for car repairs or anything, and that she needs to get her phone off my cell plan? Update. The only time I sent my daughter money was while she was in college. After college, it was her showing up only when she needed money for something. After getting her master's, she was unable to find a job that she felt she could succeed in near her mother or myself, and is currently working a 6 to 7 hour drive away from both of us. One of the other questions seemed to say I only tried to buy her love. I was the pretty involved dad, attending all of her school events, coaching sports teams, and officer in the PTSA. She will always be welcome to come home, but she can't just show up and treat me like an ATM. Several comments were how could I allow my former wife to live in what I called a bad part of town. My former wife has been married and divorced 2 times after our relationship broke. Her mother's life choices were hers, and she was responsible for them. During the years that I paid child support, the amount I was paying her was more than she was paying for rent. Having a pony or private coaches does not make us middle class. The wife and I were lower middle class at best growing up. Our parents were hardworking and they loved us. Because of that, we wanted to provide both our daughters that fairy tale childhood. We made sacrifices so both of our daughters had that life. Before anyone says it, My wife had a daughter before we met that is 6 months younger than my daughter. No, to me, she is not my stepdaughter. She's my daughter. I'm the only father she has ever known, and I love both my daughters with all my heart. Not the jerk. Your daughter made poor decisions. Ex-wife is not your problem. Daughter is 27 and no longer your responsibility. You helped her through undergrad and grad school. Poor choices like declining full scholarships are what lead to being in a better or worse financial state. Now she wants you to bear the consequences of her poor choices and support your long-gone ex? You can let her walk away guilt-free. I would recommend some sort of middle path where you can both cool off and maintain a relationship, but not at the expense of being emotionally and financially manipulated. Not the jerk, but I fathom why a parent would encourage their kid to turn down a full-ride scholarship and have their kid starting out saddled with debt. We live in America, and education, like healthcare, is ridiculously expensive, especially when there was an alternative. Your daughter uses you for money and doesn't respect you. She respects her mom, and that's the only parent she listens to. She feels as if you owe both of them. It's up to you to figure out if that's the price you want to continue to pay to have her in your life. You're the jerk. Why do rich people always hoard their money instead of helping others with it? At the end of the day, this is the woman who had your daughter for you. Helping pay your daughter's student loans is literally the bare minimum, and you don't deserve any sort of award for it. Helping your ex would be the right thing to do, but I don't expect you to do it. Rich, greedy men like you are exactly why I'm perfectly fine living on my SSI income instead of wasting my days away at some job that I'd hate. People like you don't deserve any of the money you have, and if I can get a piece of it, thanks to systems that have been set in place by our government, you bet your butt I'm going to take advantage of it. Sorry, not sorry. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his daughter? Please let us know. I think that last commenter was the biggest jerk of them all. That's gotta be one of the most Reddit things I've heard in a while. Am I the jerk for telling my wife that I hate her new job? My wife, 37 female, and I, 38 male, have been married for 12 years and we have 3 kids who are 10, 8, and 6. During lockdown, my wife's job allowed her to switch to 100% work from home. They never required her to go back to the office because her productivity actually increased, so there was no need. It made things easier for us too. I dropped the kids off at school and daycare in the morning, and she picked them up in the afternoon. She was able to keep up with a few things around the house during the day. We saved on gas and car maintenance, etc. A few months ago, she was contacted by a recruiter about a job. It would be a nice step up in her career path as well as a boost in pay, but there were drawbacks. The company had no work from home policy and would require her to work in the office. This was apparently non-negotiable. It would also be a 45-minute commute for her. We talked it over a lot, and I expressed my concerns about how this would impact our daily lives. I told her that I don't necessarily think that the bump in pay is worth the major changes to our daily lives. Not to mention the stress that a long commute can have on people, and that could impact their mood and how they interact at home. She assured me that everything would be fine and that we would adjust as a family, and soon the new routine would just become our new normal. I told her that I would never tell her to not take the job, but I just don't know if it's worth the changes that it's going to bring. Ultimately, the decision was hers, and she accepted the new job. She's been there for about 10 weeks now. To say it's been an adjustment is an understatement. She wakes up and leaves before the kids even get up. She'll help get a few things ready for them before she goes, but the entire morning kids routine is now on me. I also do both drop-off and pick-up for all of the kids too. Evenings have been a huge mess because I get home and try to get the kids distracted while I start dinner. When my wife gets home, she's usually stressed from the drive. Her commute has turned into over an hour due to construction and traffic and takes 15 minutes for herself to calm down before eating alone. Then after dinner, she's going to bed earlier because she has to wake up earlier. I told her that I feel her new job has put an unfair amount of household and childcare duties on me and that she's being far less present in our lives when she's home. She's told me that we just need to give it more time to adjust and things will get easier. I told her that 10 weeks is a pretty good adjustment period and I hate it so far. She told me I'm being an unsupportive jerk and that I need to give it more time. Edit. I don't have the emotional bandwidth right now to deal with the huge amount of comments that I'm getting here. Those kinds of responses are why men don't open up when they feel exactly like I do right now and just bottle things up. I have to get ready to pick up my kids. They're getting Happy Meals tonight because forget it. Everyone sucks here. You two are talking past each other. You say you wanted to come up with solutions, but you don't suggest any actual solutions. She was dismissive of your concerns and also didn't suggest any solutions. She's making more money. Use that to outsource some of this stuff. As a general matter, I don't think it's fair to expect that over the course of a lifetime, your spouse's career will never require you to pick up the slack at home. These things tend to shift. She handled more stuff while she was work from home, now it's your turn. If it's unsustainable for you, then absolutely talk about solutions. But I hate it is not a solution. OP. I did offer solutions, but the character limit prevented me from including every single aspect of this. Some of my solutions were doing meal prep on weekends so dinner time is easier, or possibly ordering meal kits. Those were things we agreed on. But others, like me telling her she needs to find a way to be more present in our daily lives because me and the kids feel like we never see her, were met with more hostility from her. I get your point, but that's not a solution, just a complaint. Maybe something like have a fixed time for her to recover when she comes home and a fixed time to spend with family would be a better suggestion. Make some new family traditions. Maybe even something silly, like a loving phrase you say to each other that signifies her having fully arrived at home. I'm sure she doesn't want you and the kids to feel neglected, so if her reaction is negative, it's about the delivery. This is your chance to find creative solutions. Who knows? Maybe you have a mandatory, to a degree, cuddle time every day, and maybe your kids will remember that fondly forever. I understand you're frustrated with the situation, but this can either be a tough time in your family relationships, or it can be the start of something new, with the potential for being an awesome thing. It's up to the both of you what it ends up being. You came up with good solutions, but this is all on your wife at the moment. OP told her that he and the kids feel like she's not present in their lives anymore, and that's the truth. But they were met with even more hostility. She's not listening, and she's the one that needs to change. Not the jerk. I don't understand the people saying it's your time to do it when you've pointed out the fact that before her new job, you both used to split the kids' routine together, and I don't see what the issue is with keeping up with housework since she worked from home. It seems like you had a good dynamic going on and balanced teamwork. Because that's not what he described. His words make it sound like he's just sad that she's not doing as much at home anymore, not that they had an equal balance before. You're the jerk. Why is it too much to expect men to support their partner's advancement and career when women do it all the time? Suck it up, soldier. These are your kids too. Genuinely curious if you'd say the same if this were a wife with the exact same complaint about her husband's new job. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.